What is the price of peace? And when does the desperate pursuit of it sow the very seeds of the catastrophic war it was meant to prevent? This question haunted the corridors of power in Europe during the tense autumn of 1938, a time when the world held its breath, teetering on the brink of conflict. The answer would be found in a fateful settlement, an agreement that would live on in infamy not as a triumph of diplomacy, but as a profound and cautionary tale of miscalculation. In the heart of Germany, a pact was signed that for a fleeting moment seemed to promise tranquility, but in reality it only served to unleash the ambitions of a tyrant and set the stage for the most devastating war in human history. The crisis began to unfold in September of 1938, when the gaze of German Chancellor Adolf Hitler fixed on a region in western Czechoslovakia known as the Sudetenland. This territory was home to a significant population of some 3 million ethnic Germans, and Hitler saw in them a powerful tool for his expansionist agenda. He began to agitate, and soon Suden Germans initiated a series of protests that deliberately provoked a response from the Czech police, leading to outbreaks of violence. Seizing upon this manufactured unrest, Hitler made the inflammatory and unsubstantiated claim that 300 Suden Germans had been killed in the clashes. This allegation, though baseless, served as his perfect excuse, a pretext to mobilize the formidable German military and position his troops menacingly along the Czechoslovakian border, signaling his readiness to invade. Across the English Channel, the prospect of another great war filled the British government with dread. Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain, a man deeply committed to avoiding a repeat of the carnage of the Great War, became the central figure in the desperate diplomatic effort to de-escalate the situation. Intent on averting war at almost any cost, Chamberlain embarked on a series of personal missions, flying to Germany to meet with Hitler a remarkable 3 times during the fraught month of September in 1938. His efforts culminated in a high-stakes conference held in Munich on the 29th of September. There, in a room heavy with the fate of a nation that was not even present, Chamberlain and his French counterpart, Prime Minister Édouard Daladier, sat down with Hitler and his ally, the Italian dictator Benito Mussolini. Conspicuously and cruelly absent from these negotiations was any representative from the Czechoslovak government, whose sovereignty and very existence were being debated and dismantled by foreign powers. On the 30th of September 1938, the 4 leaders reached a settlement. The terms were a complete capitulation to Hitler's demands. The Munich Agreement, as it came to be known, stipulated that all areas of Czechoslovakia with a population that was more than 50% Suden German were to be turned over to Germany immediately. The pact was signed by Nazi Germany, the United Kingdom, France, and Italy, sealing the fate of the democratic nation of Czechoslovakia without its consent. For many, particularly in the betrayed nation, the agreement was not a diplomatic achievement but a shameful act of abandonment, earning it the bitter moniker of the Munich Betrayal. This name held a particular sting, for it recalled a 1924 alliance agreement and a 1925 military pact that France had signed with the Czechoslovak Republic, solemn promises of mutual defense that were now being discarded in the face of German aggression. The consequences of the agreement were swift and devastating. On the 1st of October 1938, just 1 day after the pact was signed, German troops marched unopposed into the Sudetenland. By the 10th of October, Hitler had completed his annexation of a vast and vital territory. This was no mere land grab. He had become the master of Czechoslovakia's main defenses, a formidable line of fortifications that had been built specifically to deter a German invasion. Furthermore, the annexed region contained a great wealth of natural and industrial resources. The loss of its crucial coal, iron, steel, and electrical industries effectively crippled the Czechoslovakian economy and war machine, leaving the now defenseless nation completely at the mercy of its powerful neighbor. The heart of the country was now exposed, its strategic shield shattered by the stroke of a pen in Munich. While German forces consolidated their control over the Sudetenland, Neville Chamberlain returned to Britain a hero, at least for a moment. Stepping off the plane, he famously waved a copy of the agreement and proclaimed to a relieved public that he had achieved peace for our time. His actions were the cornerstone of a policy known as appeasement, a diplomatic strategy predicated on the belief that by meeting the grievances of aggressor nations like Germany, a wider conflict could be prevented. It was a policy born of a deep-seated fear of war, but it was ultimately founded on a fatal misunderstanding of Hitler's true ambitions. The Munich Agreement is now widely viewed as a significant and catastrophic miscalculation that, instead of sating Hitler's appetite, only emboldened his expansionist desires. Hitler himself was taken aback by the outcome. He had fully believed that he would have to fight a war to claim the Sudetenland, and had been prepared for it. The astonishing ease with which Czechoslovakia's supposed allies, Britain and France, readily abandoned the country to appease him came as a genuine surprise. This diplomatic victory, achieved without firing a single shot, reinforced his contempt for the Western democracies and solidified his confidence that he could continue his campaign of expansion without facing any serious opposition. The peace that Chamberlain had promised was tragically short-lived. In March of 1939, a mere handful of months after signing the agreement, Hitler brazenly broke his promise. He ordered his armies to march into Prague, swallowing the rest of the dismembered and defenseless Czechoslovakian state. This final cynical act shattered any remaining illusions about his intentions and proved unequivocally that the policy of appeasement had failed. It had not stopped Hitler, it had only made him stronger and more audacious. The fall of Prague was a clear signal that his ambitions were not limited to uniting German-speaking peoples, but were aimed at continental domination. The path to a global conflict was now irrevocably set. The invasion of Poland followed on the 1st of September 1939, an act of aggression that finally exhausted the patience of Britain and France, compelling them to declare war on Germany, and marking the definitive beginning of the Second World War.